Okay, there's a couple of different types of power steering pump pulley removers. Normally I'm going to take the belt off, obviously. Fairly universal for Ford, GM, Dodge. Kind of gives you instructions on this little sheet here on how to put them on and take them off. But really, here's what it looks like. So you have this clamshell. This side's smaller than this side. What happens is you clamp it here on the pulley, and you got this collar that slides on here like so. Then you take a jack screw like this, and you can either use a long one like this that'll actually go in there, or you can use a short one that'll push against the end of it, push against the end of that shaft, or one of these will actually go inside of it and push like that. We're going to try the little bit longer one. There's a longer one yet, but essentially what you do is take this nut here. We're going to run the nut up a ways, and I've coated this with anti-seize already, so that's something you definitely want to do before you think about doing this. This is a bearing, if you look at this, and then a washer. So you want to put that up against the end here. If I'm doing this right. So go this way. We're going to take, what's essentially going to happen, we're going to take this clamshell, put the small side on, like that, and I've got to get it in such a place and off. The bearing doesn't do a whole lot. We're going to run this down close, and this is where it gets kind of tricky. But I want to put that on there, and I want to take the small side on the pulley and the big side on the puller. So small side, big side, it's going to go like that. Put this on here like so, and then essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to tighten this up. I'm going to hold this piece and put a ratchet wrench right here. And then I'm going to put a wrench here to hold it. Essentially what I'm going to do, I'm not going to pull this off, but just to kind of show you, it's left-hand thread, or well, it's right-hand thread, but I'm going to tighten on this until it pulls that pulley off. Once I get that pulley pulled off, then I can usually get to the bracket behind, and because you'll just change the pump most times, right? So like that. What you can kind of see here, though, is when this is tightened up on here, we'll just leave one side off. As I tighten this nut, it's going to push down the center of the power steering pump shaft, and it's going to pull with this lip right here, pull the pulley off. When we put it on, we kind of got to do a little bit of reverse operations. Okay, when we put the new pulley on, imagine this pulley's pulled out, it's not pressed on there. They're not keyed, anything like that, but we're going to take one of these adapters like this. It could be a longer one, shorter one. We'll see which one fits, but essentially what you do is you thread this in here like so, and what we're going to do is we're going to use that to pull it back on. So same thing, run this nut back a ways. There's different styles of power steering pullers and that kind of thing that make a difference, but I'll thread this on here like so, and remember the pulley's pulled out here, so when I put this guy on here, I want this collar over it. So now that it's pushed on there, I'm going to use a bearing to help. It's going to suck the pulley on. And that's what these bearings and washers are all about. And you want to be careful because you will strip the threads out of the power steering pump, whatever the case may be. But this slides up here, and this one's been really forced on, so it's harder. But you can imagine this thread's in there, then you take this nut, and you're going to force that pulley back on. The big trick is kind of pay attention where the end of the shaft was before you do it. Let's see if we can run it up here. If you don't have that bearing on there, you'll have a heck of a time because there's a lot of friction going on without it. We'll run that up like so. Then I'll take my wrench, I'm going to tighten this one and hold this one as it sucks the pulley on. Kind of a slick setup. There's that style of puller. There's also another, I've got two different ones, but I've broke this jack shaft, but instead of the two collars that goes around, this goes on like so, and you can kind of see how that's not near as good because it's not pulling evenly all the way around. And same thing, you got a nut here, and this one's actually got the washer built into the shaft, which is nice, so you don't have to worry about getting that on. And then different length shafts, the jack shaft. Once you get it sucked all the way on there, you're going to unscrew all this stuff. We'll go ahead and put this back in the case. So we have the nut, the jack shaft, and there again, see all the gray stuff on my hands, that's anti-seize for the bearing, and the washer goes with it. Put it back in here. Then I'm also going to need a wrench to get it back off and screw that out, put my tool away. It's pretty straightforward if you actually look at the instructions that come with the tool.